Spring arrives with gentle warmth in Seattle. Rosalind Chen gazed at the cherry blossoms floating past the classroom window as she finished grading papers in the afternoon light. Roosevelt Elementary School where she taught was nestled in a quiet residential neighborhood, filled with families who valued education above all else. Rosalind gathered the math tests scattered across her desk, glancing at the clock and realizing she needed to pick up Ethan soon. Her 8-year-old son would be waiting for her at the after-school program. "Rosalind, you can head out early today if you need to get Ethan." Grace Martinez, the principal, appeared in the doorway with her warm smile. She had always been supportive of Rosalind's situation as a widowed mother trying to balance teaching and parenting. "Thank you so much, Grace. I really appreciate your understanding," Rosalind replied, quickly packing her lesson plans into her worn leather bag. Her shoulders carried the weight of exhaustion that never seemed to fully disappear. Being a single mother while maintaining her dedication to 25 third graders was a constant juggling act. Ethan's father had died in a construction accident when their son was just 11 months old. For 7 years since then, Rosalind had built their life together from the ground up. Though their teacher's salary kept them in a modest rental house, their home overflowed with love and learning. After picking up Ethan from school, Rosalind pulled into their driveway and noticed her phone buzzing with notifications from the Chen family group chat. She helped Ethan with his backpack and unlocked their front door, her mind still on the parent conferences scheduled for next week. The living room felt warm and welcoming, filled with Ethan's artwork and the soft glow of evening light filtering through their small windows. "Mom. Look what I made in art class today." Ethan bounced toward her, holding up a colorful painting of their family. His enthusiasm instantly melted away the stress from her long day of lesson planning and meetings. "This is beautiful, sweetheart. Tell me about all these colors you chose," Rosalind said, kneeling down to examine his artwork more closely. "The blue is for when we're happy, and the yellow is for when we laugh together," Ethan explained, pointing to different sections of his painting. While heating up leftover pasta for dinner, Rosalind finally checked her phone and saw a series of messages in the family chat. Since Thomas Chen had passed away from a heart attack 5 years ago, the family dynamics had shifted dramatically. Patricia Chen, her mother-in-law, had always favored Celeste, her daughter-in-law who married into wealth and social media fame. Thomas had been the one person who truly understood Rosalind's dedication to education and her dreams of giving Ethan every opportunity. Rosalind hesitated before opening the chat, knowing that family conversations often left her feeling like an outsider looking in. As she scrolled through the messages, one announcement made her heart skip a beat. During dinner, Ethan noticed her distracted expression and reached across their small kitchen table to touch her hand. "Celeste is having a party. Can we go, Mom?" Ethan asked, his face lighting up with excitement. For him, any family gathering meant cake, cousins, and the chance to dress up in his favorite button-down shirt. Rosalind forced a smile, but inside her stomach twisted with familiar anxiety. How would Patricia and Celeste treat them at this celebration? At recent family events, she and Ethan had always felt like charity cases rather than cherished family members. That night, after Ethan had fallen asleep clutching his favorite stuffed dinosaur, Rosalind sat on their secondhand couch and pulled out a photo album from the coffee table drawer. She traced her fingers over pictures of Thomas Chan, remembering how his eyes always lit up when he talked about his vision for educational technology. Thomas Chan may have appeared to be a focused IT entrepreneur to the outside world, but he was always gentle with Rosalind and genuinely interested in her teaching philosophy. Since the day he died, Rosalind felt as if her connection to the Chin family had been severed completely. The next morning, while Ethan ate his cereal and practiced spelling words, Rosalind gathered her courage and called Celeste. "Hi Celeste, thank you for including us in the celebration. Ethan and I would love to come to the party," she said. On the other end of the line, Celeste's voice carried a hint of surprise mixed with what sounded like annoyance. "Oh, you're actually coming? How wonderful. Patricia will be so pleased to see you both." Rosalind could practically hear the fake smile through the phone as she continued the conversation. "Ethan is really excited about it. He's been asking about his cousins all week." "Yes, of course he's welcome. But Rosalind, you do understand this is at Le Bernardin, right? It's quite an upscale establishment. I hope you have something appropriate to wear," she asked. Those words stung like a slap across her face, but Rosalind kept her voice steady and professional. Don't worry, we'll make sure to dress appropriately for the occasion. After ending the call, Rosalind stared out their kitchen window at the neighbor's garden, watching a mother robin feed her babies. She made the decision to attend this celebration for Ethan's sake and to honor Thomas's memory. On Saturday evening, the exclusive Le Bernardin restaurant in downtown Seattle was transformed into a private celebration space. Crystal glasses caught the light from elegant table settings, and imported flowers created an atmosphere of sophisticated luxury. Rosalind and Ethan stepped out of their aging Honda Civic and approached the restaurant entrance, both wearing their best clothes. Rosalind had spent 2 weeks' worth of grocery money on a simple black dress from Nordstrom Rack, and Ethan wore his church clothes with a new tie. Even dressed in their finest, they felt underdressed compared to the other guests arriving in luxury cars and wearing designer outfits. The women glided past them in shoes that cost more than Rosalind's monthly car payment, while the men adjusted cufflinks that probably cost more than her weekly salary. "Mom, everyone looks like they're going to a movie premiere," Ethan whispered, tugging at his collar nervously. His wide eyes took in the scene with a mixture of wonder and uncertainty. "They do look fancy, don't they? But remember, we belong here too. We're family," Rosalind squeezed his small hand reassuringly. When they entered the private dining room, a hostess guided them to a table near the kitchen doors. The elegant space was decorated in soft gold tones, with place cards written in flowing calligraphy and centerpieces that looked like works of art. Celeste and Damien were seated at the center table, surrounded by their closest friends and business associates. A small card reading "Chen family" marked their table, but Patricia Chen was nowhere to be seen among the relatives. She was holding court at the main table, her silver hair perfectly styled and her jewelry catching the ambient lighting. As the evening unfolded, course after course of exquisite dishes appeared before them like pieces of edible art. Ethan's eyes grew wide as he carefully tasted the seared scallops and truffle risotto, foods he had only seen in cooking shows. Despite her growing anxiety, Rosalind felt a moment of joy watching her son experience something so special. Throughout the meal, she noticed Patricia's cold glances from across the room, but her mother-in-law always looked away when their eyes met. After the main course and the ceremonial toasts, Celeste stood up and reached for her phone with a bright smile. "Everyone, I have a special surprise for tonight's celebration. We're going live on Instagram for all my followers who couldn't be here." Soft music began playing as Celeste positioned herself in front of the restaurant's elegant backdrop, her phone camera capturing every detail. Suddenly, she turned the camera toward Rosalind and Ethan's table, the phone's light creating an impromptu spotlight. They looked up in confusion, Ethan instinctively moving closer to his mother. Celeste approached their table with her phone still recording, her practiced influencer smile never wavering. There was something calculating in her expression that made Rosalind's stomach drop. "Hi, everyone. So many of you have been asking about our family, and I want to introduce you to someone very special," Celeste said in her perfectly modulated social media voice. "This is Rosalind, my sister-in-law, and her adorable son Ethan. They represent something really important that I want to talk about tonight," she said. The entire restaurant seemed to hold its breath as other diners turned to watch the impromptu live stream. Ethan pressed himself against Rosalind's side, overwhelmed by the sudden attention from strangers and the bright phone light. As you can see, Rosalind is a single mother working as an elementary school teacher, and they live a very different lifestyle from what we're used to. Celeste's words were delivered with false sympathy that made several guests exchange knowing looks. Rosalind felt her face burn with humiliation as she realized what was happening. She could see the viewer count climbing on Celeste's phone screen as more people tuned in to watch. "So tonight, I'm launching a special challenge called Family Support Goals. Let's see how much we can raise to help educate this sweet family about financial success," she said. The comments on the live stream began flooding in, a mixture of heartfelt comments and cruel observations about their appearance. People at nearby tables started pulling out their own phones to record the spectacle. Tears welled up in Ethan's eyes as he heard strangers laughing and commenting about them. "Mom," he whispered, his voice shaking with confusion and hurt. Rosalind started to stand up, her protective instincts kicking in, but she froze when Patricia suddenly appeared in frame. Her mother-in-law took the phone from Celeste and addressed the camera directly. Let me add something important here. This is exactly why education is so crucial, Patricia said with a condescending smile. Some people just don't understand how to manage money or present themselves properly. Maybe we should start the donations at $50, since that's probably more than they usually see at once. The live stream erupted with comments as the viewer count surged past 50,000. Rosalind felt like her chest was caving in from the weight of public humiliation. Ethan was crying openly now, his small frame shaking against her side. Seeing her son's tears, Rosalind found her voice and her strength. "Come on, sweetheart. We're leaving right now," she said firmly, taking Ethan's hand and standing up. But just as they prepared to walk away, a calm but authoritative voice cut through the chaos from across the restaurant. "I'll match whatever amount this family needs, plus a substantial donation to the school where Rosalind teaches." The restaurant fell into an eerie silence. Every head turned toward the distinguished man who had spoken, conversation stopping mid-sentence as staff members paused with serving trays in hand. Standing near the entrance was a gentleman in his 50s with silver-streaked hair and an impeccably tailored charcoal suit. His steady gaze commanded respect as he approached their table with measured steps. "I'll provide whatever financial support this family needs, and I'm prepared to back that commitment immediately," the man repeated with quiet authority. Celeste's practiced smile faltered as she struggled to maintain her composure for the live stream. "Well, that's very generous of you, but this is just a fun family challenge," she said, her voice slightly strained. "This is not entertainment, and it's certainly not appropriate," the man replied firmly as he walked closer to where Rosalind and Ethan sat. "I am Oliver Blackwood, Thomas Chen's financial advisor and executor of his digital estate." Rosalind felt her breath catch in her throat. Thomas's financial advisor. She had heard this name mentioned in legal documents after Thomas's death, but had never met him in person. Oliver approached their table and offered Ethan a gentle smile before turning to address Rosalind directly. A warm expression crossed his face as he looked at them both. Then he slowly turned toward Celeste and Patricia, his demeanor shifting to something much colder. "Shall we continue this public humiliation," he said with controlled anger, "or would you prefer to hear what Thomas Chen actually planned for his family's future?" At Oliver's words, the restaurant became completely still. The only sounds were the gentle clinking of dishes from the kitchen and the soft murmur of traffic outside. Damien looked at his wife with growing confusion, while Patricia's face began to show the first signs of genuine worry. "Before I continue, let me apologize to you both," Oliver said, turning back to Rosalind and Ethan. "Rosalind, Ethan, I'm deeply sorry that this information has to come to light in such a public setting. However, Thomas Chen specifically requested this timing." Rosalind pulled Ethan closer, staring at Oliver with a mixture of hope and bewilderment. Ethan had stopped crying, but his small hand still gripped hers tightly. "Stop this ridiculous charade," Patricia snapped, her voice cutting through the tension. Her carefully maintained composure was beginning to crack around the edges. "Who do you think you are? Thomas's financial matters were all handled through our family accountant. We would know if he had outside advisors." Oliver reached into his jacket and withdrew a tablet device with a calm smile. "That's partially correct, Patricia. However, 5 years ago, Thomas began working with me on a very specific project, a comprehensive digital estate plan designed to protect Rosalind and Ethan," he said. "That's impossible!" Celeste shouted, her phone still recording but her followers now witnessing something very different than planned. "Thomas's will was already executed. I've seen all the legal documents myself." Oliver powered on the tablet and connected it to the restaurant's display system. Yes, the basic will was executed as planned. But Thomas, being the innovative technology entrepreneur he was, created something much more sophisticated. He gestured toward the large screen that normally displayed the restaurant's menu. Suddenly, the screen came alive with official documents and digital interfaces. At the top of the screen appeared the Thomas Chen Digital Trust and Estate Protection System, dated 3 years before his death. The restaurant erupted in whispers as guests leaned forward to read the detailed provisions displayed before them. The documents clearly outlined Thomas's intention to establish a substantial trust fund for Ethan's education, a monthly income for Rosalind, and specific instructions for monitoring the family's treatment of Rosalind and Ethan. Murmurs of surprise and confusion filled the air as people tried to process what they were seeing. Patricia and Celeste exchanged panicked glances, the color draining from their faces. Damien grabbed Celeste's arm and whispered urgently in her ear, his business instincts warning him of serious trouble ahead. Oliver continued his explanation with professional detachment. The trust also includes a comprehensive monitoring system that Thomas designed to track family interactions and social media activity, particularly any instances of public humiliation or financial manipulation. He swiped to the next screen, revealing a detailed log of tonight's events. This includes tonight's Instagram live stream, which has been automatically recorded and will be used as evidence in the upcoming legal proceedings. The display showed timestamps, viewer comments, and even screenshots of the most damaging moments from Celeste's broadcast. Oliver's voice remained steady as he delivered the final revelation. Before Thomas died, he was deeply concerned about his family's true intentions toward Rosalind and Ethan, especially given Patricia's history in banking and her focus on asset management. Tears began flowing down Rosalind's cheeks as the magnitude of Thomas's planning became clear. She had never realized how much he had worried about their future or how carefully he had prepared to protect them. She could almost feel his presence in the room, his love reaching across the years to shield them from this moment. Thomas gave me very specific instructions, Oliver continued. Monitor the family's behavior for 5 years after his death, document any mistreatment of them, and reveal the truth when they needed protection most. He paused, his voice softening as he looked at Rosalind. He was proud of your independence as a teacher and wanted you to build your own strength. But he also wanted to ensure that you and Ethan would never be left vulnerable to financial manipulation or public humiliation. Patricia stood up abruptly, her hands shaking with rage and fear. This is absolutely ridiculous. I was Thomas's wife. I have every right to be involved in managing his estate, she said. Actually, you don't, Oliver replied with calm certainty. This digital trust system has been validated by the Washington State Supreme Court, and all procedures are legally binding. In fact, Judge Patricia Williams, who validated the system, is dining at table 12 tonight. He nodded toward a distinguished woman in the corner who raised her hand slightly in acknowledgement. The judge's presence added an official weight to the proceedings that made everyone realize this was far more serious than a family dispute. This is fraud. Celeste screamed, her phone still recording her own meltdown. We haven't done anything wrong. This is just a family celebration. Oliver opened his final application on the tablet. Then perhaps we should listen to what Thomas Chen himself has to say about tonight's events. He tapped the screen, and suddenly Thomas's voice filled the restaurant through the sound system. Rosalind and Ethan, if you're hearing this message, it means that Oliver has followed my instructions, and you're probably feeling confused and overwhelmed right now. First, I want to tell you how sorry I am. I'm sorry that this message had to be delivered in such a public way. But I need you to understand something very important. I planned all of this to protect you both. I spent years watching Patricia and Celeste, and I saw how they looked at our family's financial future. I knew that after I was gone, they would try to control you through money and social pressure. But you, Rosalind, are the strongest person I've ever known. Your dedication to teaching, your love for Ethan, and your integrity. These are worth more than all the money in the world. The trust fund I've created will ensure that Ethan can attend any college he chooses. And you'll never have to worry about bills or rent again. But more importantly, you'll never have to tolerate being treated as less than the incredible woman you are. Ethan, sweet boy, I know you won't remember me much, but I want you to know that your grandpa loves you more than all the stars in the sky. Take care of your mom, study hard, and always remember that kindness is more valuable than money. To anyone who might be listening to this message, especially Patricia and Celeste, I want you to understand that real family doesn't humiliate each other for entertainment. Real family lifts each other up, protects each other, and loves unconditionally. I hope you've learned something from tonight. With all my love, Thomas. When the recording ended, the restaurant remained in complete silence. Tears were streaming down Rosalind's face as she realized how deeply Thomas had loved them and planned for their protection. Ethan looked up at her with wonder in his eyes. Mom, was that really Grandpa? Did Grandpa really leave that message for us? He asked, his voice filled with awe. Rosalind hugged him tightly, her voice thick with emotion. Yes, sweetheart. He loved us so much that he made sure we'd always be safe and taken care of. Patricia and Celeste sat in stunned silence, their faces pale with shock and the dawning realization of what they had lost. Damien stood up quickly and spoke in a harsh whisper to Celeste. Do you realize what you've just done? This was all recorded live. My business reputation is ruined, he yelled. The other guests began gathering their belongings, clearly uncomfortable with the family drama they had witnessed. Many of them were pulling out their phones to check if they had been tagged in Celeste's live stream. Oliver approached Rosalind's chair and spoke quietly. Rosalind, Ethan, there's much more we need to discuss, but this isn't the right place. All the legal arrangements are already in motion. Rosalind stood up and took Ethan's hand, feeling a strength she hadn't possessed an hour earlier. She looked around the restaurant with newfound confidence. Patricia and Celeste no longer seemed like intimidating figures. They just looked like two people who had made terrible choices. What filled her heart now was gratitude for Thomas's love and determination to build the life he had wanted for them. Oliver's Tesla moved silently through Seattle as they left the restaurant. Rosalind watched city lights blur past while adjusting Ethan's jacket as he slept against the window. Emotions swirled inside her. Love for Thomas's planning, hurt from Patricia and Celeste's cruelty, and shock about their true financial situation. You must be exhausted, Oliver said softly. I've arranged the Fairmont Olympic Hotel tonight. Tomorrow we'll begin legal proceedings. Why didn't Thomas tell me about this? Rosalind asked shakily. Why let me struggle and worry about Ethan's future, she asked. Thomas wanted to protect you while honoring your independence, Oliver replied. He saw how Patricia and Celeste manipulated people with money. But why wait 5 years, she asked again. That was Thomas's timeline, Oliver explained. He wanted you to thrive independently and knew Patricia and Celeste would reveal their true nature eventually. He used to say, Rosalind needs to discover her strength before inheriting wealth, Oliver continued admiringly. Fresh tears slid down Rosalind's cheeks. I had no idea he had such faith in me. He was constantly proud, Oliver replied warmly. He'd say, my daughter-in-law raises our grandchild while making a difference in dozens of children's lives. She's already successful in what matters most. The following morning, Rosalind arrived at Oliver's office with Ethan. Legal documents covered the conference table, trust fund paperwork, property deeds, and investment portfolios. The digital trust system activated last night, Oliver explained. Judge Williams signed the orders, and Patricia and Celeste's access to Chun family assets is frozen. What happens next? Rosalind asked. Ethan played with blocks in the corner while Oliver's assistant read him stories. You'll become the primary beneficiary of Thomas's patents and investment portfolio, Oliver said. You'll also control Ethan's college fund, he said. Rosalind buried her face in her hands, overwhelmed. I don't know anything about managing investments. How can I handle this? Oliver smiled reassuringly. You have a master's degree and manage 30 children daily. Thomas said those skills translate to business perfectly. But stocks and corporate decisions, Rosalind hesitated. Thomas anticipated that, Oliver said, pulling out another folder. He arranged a full support team, financial advisors, and educational consultants who help teachers transition to other fields. Over the following months, Rosalind's life transformed completely. Legal proceedings moved quickly, and the digital evidence Thomas had collected left no doubt. Patricia and Celeste were ordered to return every dollar they had misused. Damien filed for divorce within 2 weeks, and Celeste lost all her brand partnerships. Patricia was forced to sell her luxury home and move to a modest apartment. Ethan enrolled at Seattle Academy, a prestigious private school. Rosalind began managing Thomas's substantial trust fund and investment portfolio. You have Thomas's analytical mind with a teacher's patience, one advisor told her. That's powerful in business. 3 months after the restaurant incident, Rosalind invited Oliver to dinner. There's something you haven't told me, isn't there? She asked over wine. Thomas came to me 10 years ago, worried about Patricia and Celeste, Oliver admitted. He wanted to ensure you and Ethan would thrive, not just survive, he said. Rosalind felt warmth spread through her chest. You've kept that promise. From that evening, Rosalind's vision expanded dramatically. She announced new initiatives, educational technology programs and scholarships for single-parent families. I want to honor Thomas's memory, she declared at a school board meeting. Technology should bridge gaps, not create them. Rosalind established the Thomas Chan Memorial Foundation supporting innovative teachers and struggling families. Ethan became an enthusiastic ambassador. Mom, I want to help kids whose dads aren't here anymore, he said one morning. You absolutely can, sweetheart, Rosalind replied, hugging him tightly. Her relationship with Oliver deepened naturally. He became a trusted friend and father figure for Ethan. Oliver joined them for hiking, museum visits, and soccer games. In Thomas's old office, Rosalind picked up his favorite family photo. Thank you for believing in us, Thomas. I'll make you proud. Outside, the Seattle skyline sparkled with promise and possibility. In a small apartment in Tacoma, Patricia Chun stood by the window watching raindrops fall. Her designer clothes had been replaced with discount store basics. Celeste worked on her laptop, applying for entry-level jobs. Her influencer career had collapsed after the restaurant incident went viral, and Damien had divorced her. Mom, would you like some coffee? Celeste asked quietly. Yes, please, Patricia replied with a tired sigh. A year had passed since that night at Le Bernardin. Their lives had completely changed, from luxury to paycheck living. That afternoon, they visited Rosalind's downtown Seattle office. The nameplate read, Thomas Chan Memorial Foundation, Executive Director Rosalind Chan. Ms. Chan will see you now, the receptionist said. Rosalind sat confidently behind her desk, reviewing grant applications. She had transformed from an anxious teacher into a respected non-profit leader. Patricia, Celeste, Rosalind stood to greet them calmly. Hello, Rosalind, Patricia said nervously. Thank you for seeing us, Patricia said. Please, sit down, Rosalind gestured to chairs around a conference table. We came to apologize, Celeste whispered. What we did at the restaurant was unforgivable. That's in the past, Rosalind replied. What matters is moving forward, she added. Rosalind pulled out documents from her desk. I've prepared housing assistance and a monthly stipend for you both through the foundation. Patricia and Celeste stared in disbelief. Why would you help us? Celeste asked tearfully. Because Thomas believed families should support each other, Rosalind said. And Ethan deserves to know his grandmother and aunt. There's one condition, Rosalind continued. Spend time with Ethan monthly, real time, getting to know him. Tears flowed down Patricia's face as she realized this was her chance for genuine family love. On Christmas Eve, Rosalind's new home in Queen and glowed with warm light from every window. Around the beautiful evergreen tree were Ethan's classmates from Seattle Academy, colleagues from the Thomas Chan Memorial Foundation, and special guests including Patricia and Celeste. The house was filled with laughter, the aroma of homemade cookies, and the sound of children playing board games in the living room. A toast to new beginnings and the family we choose to build together, Oliver said, raising his wine glass as the adults gathered in the kitchen. Rosalind smiled warmly as she looked at him, feeling grateful for how naturally their relationship had evolved from professional partnership to something deeply personal and meaningful. By the large picture window overlooking Elliott Bay, Ethan carefully picked up his grandpa's favorite photograph from the mantelpiece. Mom, I don't remember him very much, but he was a really good person, wasn't he? He asked, studying Thomas's smiling face in the photo. Rosalind knelt down beside her son and wrapped her arms around him. Yes, my love. Your grandpa was the kindest, smartest man I've ever known, and I know he's watching over us with so much pride. Outside the window, soft snowflakes began to fall on the Seattle skyline, creating a peaceful blanket over the city they now called home.